Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Lead Up for Women, Speak Up to Lead Up. We are on episode number 139, and this is absolutely the first time that I have ever done an episode of Lead Up for Women, Speak Up to Lead Up solo without having an interview. And I am excited to have this conversation with you today about never giving up. But first, I want to make sure that we recognize our current sponsor for today's show, which is Ask Dr. Melissa. Are you in pain? Are you suffering from anxiety or depression? Do you suffer from constipation? Are you being treated for a chronic condition such as high blood pressure or high cholesterol? Are you tired of being put on medication after medication? Are you finally ready to ditch the pills and discover the root cause? At Ask Dr. Melissa, we help our clients shift from a plethora of pills to just a few truly necessary ones. Together, we peel back the Band-Aids and get rid of the unnecessary things that are just treating the symptoms. It's time to treat the root cause. Together, we leverage the established benefits of Eastern and Western medicines, focus on the true root cause of the issue, and address it from the core. So be sure to schedule your Ask Dr. Melissa consultation today at AskDrMelissa.net. Now, back to the show. Listeners, I want to start with today's show for thanking you for being part of my tribe and being a loyal listener after 3 years of us launching the Lead Up for Women, Speak Up to Lead Up podcast, which started back in February of 2019. I remember I was on a Voice America radio show as a guest when we launched Lead Up for Women in the very second month to talk all about Lead Up for Women and how excited we were to bring women together to be able to be seen and be heard and be visible. And shortly after that, I remember Voice America asking me to come back into their studio to launch my own show and lead their women empowerment channel that they were starting. It was such an honor and a blessing. And to tell you, frankly, I was scared to death to step into the realm of being a podcast host. Here, I had come from corporate America, had coached and launched over 300 businesses during the last 20 years. But hey, that is a lot different than being a podcast host and speaking to the airwaves and interviewing guests. I had never done that. So that was a hat I hadn't worn yet. And I dove in, and I remember staying up night after night and listening to podcasts and reading the rules on how you prepare a podcast interview guest and questions you should ask them and questions you shouldn't ask them. And boy, was I doing it by the book. I remember the first show I launched, I had several notes written and I was reading them verbatim. And I said a lot of filler words like and ah and and it was hilarious now that I look back at that time in my life, but I never gave up. I pushed the pedal down and I started realizing that I was following the way everyone else was doing their podcast, and I needed to lean in to the way that Colleen Biggs would do a podcast. What is my personality? What questions would I want to ask a guest? And how would I want them to explain who they are and what their genius is? And how would I want them to help our listeners be able to take golden nuggets out of every interview and apply them to our lives so that we could never give up, so that we can continue to live our lives by design and not by default. So interview after interview, I got more comfortable. Interview after interview, I began feeling like I was coming into my own as a podcast host. And so again, this never give up mantra is something that I have used throughout my whole life. I used it during the time that I received my black belt. For many of you might know, I'm a first degree black belt in Taekwondo, and this happened in my 40s, in my early 40s. This wasn't something that happened as a teenager or in my early 20s, when of course my body was more vibrant and strong and alive. However, in my 40s, I will tell you that my body has never been stronger, has never felt more alive. And I persevered through things that I didn't think I would ever be able to persevere through. I remember the evening before my test, which was our final black belt test, I could not break this board for the life of me. And my husband and I were at home working on it because we had left the dojo that evening, and I couldn't break the third board. And you have to break all three boards by doing a spin round kick. You know, we had to do a back kick. We had to do a side kick. We had to do a palm drive. So each board had to be broken, or you couldn't graduate. So I just remember that evening at home, and my husband and I had some boards at home that we were practicing on, and I couldn't break it. And I swear I felt like my hand was going to break. I felt like my toes were going to break. I had bruises all over me, and I was in my head. And I had fear. That whole fear thing to me was real. It was real that I was afraid that I would not be able to break the boards, even though, looking back, I had broken those boards over and over again several times. I had gotten in my head so much and convinced my body that I wouldn't be able to do it. And we all know false evidence appearing real is what fear is, but in that moment, it had overcome me. And I want you to think of all the times in your life that you have allowed fear to overcome you and stop you in your tracks from moving forward, from pursuing that relationship that you want to pursue, or from telling that family member how you feel, or taking a career that you really want to pursue, or applying for a job that you really want, or leaving a job that you really hate, or starting that business that you want to start, or telling that friend how much they really mean to you and other people are making fun of them. How many times has fear gotten in the way from you doing truly what it is that you desire to do? And that night, I remember texting the master of the dojo and saying to him, I'm really struggling here, and I'm afraid I can't break these boards tomorrow, and I'm not going to graduate. And he texted me back just a few words, and he said, tomorrow's another day. And he was right. Tomorrow was another day. I went to sleep. I stopped practicing. I trusted in my training. I trusted in everything I had done and all the effort I had put into it. And I knew that tomorrow was another day. So I would wake up, and tomorrow I had new opportunities and new things would arise. So I woke up the next day, and of course, I was still nervous, but I didn't practice at all. I just trusted in my training, trusted in my skills, trusted in my knowledge, trusted in my experience, that I would do what was necessary at the time I needed to without blocking myself with fear. And I was more excited that day when I woke up than ever. So, of course, we go to the dojo that day for testing. It's a Saturday, and all of the families are there for everyone that's testing. The entire building is full. And this was the first time that my husband and I, because we did this together and we were graduating together, that our children were ever invited. These are adult children now. And they some of them were married. Some of them already had some of our grandkids. So we invited all of our family, including brothers and sisters and kids, to come to the graduation. And this was the first time they got to watch us in our gis. They had never even seen us in a karate gi. And they watched us perform. They watched us do all of the forms and the weapons and what we needed to do. And then individually, each one of us had to go up and set our stations to break our boards for the final celebration and the final graduation. And I remember that my husband went first, and he broke two of his boards and missed the third board. And so you get a second try to be able to break that third board. But you need to reset all the boards. So he did. He went in and reset all the boards. And on his second try, he broke all three boards. And I was so excited. I remember just running out, which is totally disrespectful to do this, but I don't even know what happened and what overcame me. I ran out and jumped into his arms because I was so excited, because sweat and tears and hours of competition, and we have put into this for 3.5 years to get to this point, to graduate, to prove to ourselves and our bodies and our minds that we're capable of overcoming anything and getting to this level. And I was just so ecstatic and excited for him. And then it was my turn to go up there and do the same. And I broke all 3 boards on my very first try. And I just remember falling to the ground and just crying. I just remember crying and thanking God that he gave me the strength to do it. And in that moment, I was so proud of myself that I had the courage to believe that tomorrow was another day, that I had people in my life and tribes of people around me that celebrated me, that believed in me, that could help me in times when I was down, that my master could see a different perspective, and he knew I had the ability. He knew I could do it. He just needed to convince me that night that I could, and tomorrow would be another day. And I just remember him smiling at me and just kind of winking and saying, and just kind of nodding, like, I had all the confidence in you the entire time. You just needed to gain the confidence in yourself. And I never gave up. That was another story of just never giving up. And since that time, and since the time that other people have stepped into my life and taken me in and taken me under their wing and taught me about business and taught me how to run business, I have vowed to myself and others that I'll never give up on myself and I'll never give up on others. And today, that is something that I work very hard in instilling in clients that I work with, which is tomorrow's another day. You can never give up on yourself. And the more that you're in action and the more that you have confidence in yourself, in your abilities, the more that grows. And when you are in action, you continue to grow your confidence, because when you're in action, things happen. And when you're in action, you're telling the universe, okay, I'm doing my part. It's time for you to do yours. And I was never so happy than that day, probably, as happy as I was when I held my first child. But it was just a huge accomplishment. And I want you to think back on how many of those days have you had in your life where you've just accomplished something huge, whether it be hiking a mountain and you finally get to the top and you just stand there and cry because you're so proud of yourself that you never gave up and you just kept going, and you allowed your mental capacity to break through and dominate your physical body to get to the top. I know in my life, I've pushed myself in many different sports. I used to run marathons, half marathons, I would run a different run every month for charity, whether it be 10 miles, 10Ks, 20 miles, whatever it was. I would donate my money and I would run, and it was all about pushing myself to the next level in my mental capacity to not stop running. And that was always my goal. My goal wasn't to be the winner, to be number one, to be the fastest. My personal goal in every run was to never give up and just keep running and not walk, and just keep moving. And that's what I did for many, many years. And that helped me stay mentally strong. So what finish line have you crossed lately? What finish line have you set for yourself that you want to cross? If you haven't crossed a finish line lately, I'm going to encourage each one of you to go out there and sign up for a turkey trot, or, a holiday hot chocolate run that's maybe a 5K, which is 3.2 miles. What if you just walked that 3.2 miles and crossed a finish line physically for yourself, and knowing you could do it and then do it? We need these finish lines in our life. We need these wins. And without these wins, we get discouraged. And discouragement leads to fear. Fear leads to doubt. And doubt leads to worry. And worry leads to depression. And when you get to that point in your life, you really believe that you can't do anything, that it's impossible for you to accomplish, when the truth is it's not impossible. Anyone at any age, at any size, at any weight, in any race could accomplish walking 3.2 miles. Even my brother-in-law, who is in a wheelchair, could accomplish 3.2 miles. And so I want to challenge each one of you today to get out there and put yourself out there. Take a leap of faith in something that scares you. Because when you get on the other side and you've accomplished it, the feeling that you're going to get, the rush that you're going to get, the boost of confidence that you're going to get in yourself is unparalleled to anything else. So what are you doing for yourself to push yourself and not give up past a point that you think isn't possible for you, but I know is possible, your neighbor knows is possible, your parents, your sisters, your brothers, your friends, they all know it's possible and they all know you can do it, but you just lack that belief in yourself. And if you lack belief in yourself and you needing someone to fuel you and pour into you for that, don't ever hesitate to reach out at info@leadupforwomen.com. I will be there to answer any questions that you have. This is by far one of my favorite subjects of living life by design and not by default, which is never giving up on yourself. You should never give up on fun. You should never give up on your fitness and your body and what you can push it to. You should never give up on your friends or your family. You need to surround yourself with a tribe of people that are there to support you and fuel you. So take a moment, get a piece of paper, or if you're driving, maybe you could, say it out loud into a voice recorder, or ask your child who's sitting in the seat next to you to write it down. But as you're listening to this, I want you to write down 3 things that scare you, 3 things that you know you want to do, but scare the crap out of you. And I want you to make it that goal for you to accomplish in 2022. So in 2022, you have 12 months to complete that goal. And the faster you complete the goal, the faster your confidence will rise, the faster you'll believe in yourself, and the faster you'll be able to accomplish the next goal. And then once those 3 goals are set and accomplished, set 3 more. I promise you that by doing these steps, you will find so much more happiness in your life, confidence in your life, because you're now living your life by design exactly the way that you intended to do so, and not by default, meaning living in the scarcity mode or allowing things to happen to us because we're not in control of our lives. Because believe it or not, no one's coming. And you have 2 choices. And a good friend of mine and client, Barbara Ann Shepard, has taught me we either ask or accept. So I want to ask you the question. It's act or accept. If you're not happy with something in your life, I want you to either act on it to change it, or come to the agreement that you're going to accept it, because those are your only 2 choices. So today, with our subject of never give up, please write down and ask yourself, am I going to act on this goal that I've set for myself, or something in my life I want to change, or am I just going to accept it? But you only have 2 choices. Change it, which is act on it, or accept it. And ladies, I just want to remind you of this. You are the only you that has ever been. You're the only you that will ever be. Please do not wait until the last day for you to live with regret on something that you wish you would have acted upon instead of accepting in your life. And I leave this with you today with gratitude in my heart that each one of you will never, ever give up. Until next time, be you and be strong. Bye-bye now.